Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Eback, and alongside me today is Barnow. Barnow, what kind of teams have we got up to? Got facing each other today? Are they good ones? Are they bad ones? Are they middling teams? What kind of teams are
I would,
these?
at this point in the league, I would say middling. We've seen some fantastic performances, I think, from all of these players individually in moments, but they've both demonstrated a little bit of a lack of consistency at the moment.
That sounds it. A little bit of a lack is always well. It's never great, and we've got endangered today, of course, who have been up and down. They've mostly down, I would say, in proximity, who obviously were very strong from last season, a bit stronger and a bit more consistent than endangered during that season. They've struggled a bit so far this season, haven't they, Barnell?
They have a little bit, yeah. I mean, people like Samayoto draw my gaze. I mean, back last season when we were first here uh, in Reflex, we were looking to previous seasons, and Samayoto is a formidable planter. He will put that planter down so frequently.
Hmm.
Geico and Zixi as well, really high up on the kills. But yeah, this season a little bit inconsistent. Again, on the opposite side, Angelo, Scipio, and Stuxy all very capable. So I'm interested to see today because I think today could be a bit of a opportunity for a resurgence.
Ooh. Resurgitunity, maybe?
That's how I would put it if I was looking to save time.
Yeah, that's probably a good call. So some it's been back and forth from both, and at the moment you would assume, given recent results and the fight that Proximity have had in their losing games, like they lost 7-5 to Sam Clan, so by no means a sweep, by no means a poor performance, because Sam Clan are a very tough team to beat, as
Yeah.
we've seen a lot through this season. They've smacked everybody, silly, even Volcano. So they're quite a tough team to beat. And Proximity still doing well, just not getting the results on the board. I think that's the difference. And against Endangered, they are fancied. They are the team you'd anticipate taking the points today.
Indeed. Looks like we've got almost everyone in the lobby ready to go. I think
Huzzah.
it looks to be that we are heading over to Clubhouse for today's matchup between Endangered and Proximity. So I think we've almost certainly seen these teams play here before. I don't recall anything massively surprising coming out. These teams are not teams that really often shock us with crazy strategies. They're ones that try and go for
Mhm.
pretty well established methodologies, but just try and really nail the execution. And
Yep.
I think these are teams that can bring that out. And like you said, right, they lost 7-5 to Sam Clan over Endangered. Not
Mhm.
a sweep at all. They can really contest, and they have that resilience to go the full distance. That time, not in their favor, but I think here, I think these are two really well matched teams. I think this is going to be a really close one.
Yeah, a key difference. I mean, Proximity have quite a few strong players, even on their subs. They've got a very strong roster altogether, and I'm seeing a few players who have been in and out in recent games. We've got Zekezy back, Element also in play. I'm just looking across their roster, and they have so many good players all around. A key focus today I'm going to have on Samayoto because he can pull out some incredible moments, especially on pretty strong, usually on the thermite, which we could possibly see here, but especially on that smoke on the defense, which is where they start on the defense.
Perfect. And as the game dives in, endangered on the attack, proximity on the defense, as you so say, we're going to get ourselves into the ban phase, almost begging that everyone has fun, fantastic. First message, see one of the more friendly ones we've seen. Proximity clean and
Hey.
banning. We've seen a very standard set come out recently over in the past season or so. The Thatcher, Maverick, Mirror, Kaid set is a very standard. We're going to start things off in a pretty familiar fashion. Maverick is the first to
Mm.
fall off the board. Proximity, ensuring no torches shall be brought. Endangered. Anything to surprise us? The clock ticks down quick, so they've chosen their
Ah.
choice, and it's going to be that Thatcher.
Oh,
Apparently, we've lost eBack. I
no, just
personally
keep that
am.
cam. I didn't realize the cams were still on us. I turned it off. We've got Vigil as the ban, however, from Endangered. He's
Woo!
almost as sneaky as me, and he's off the board. Kaid, the remaining ban. That Vigil, I think, an intentional ban from Endangered to ward off Proximity's cheekier players. I'm looking at Element most likely as potentially one of those roaming men. He does love the Jaeger. We've seen him pull out great matches, even on Clubhouse, especially in particular. I can recall him being a menace in Garage, just sticks in my mind. So I think that's a very smart ban from the attackers so that their drone play, which has been a bit slow in recent games, I think it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, and I recall in the last game that we cast together, we saw a Vigil ban come out as well, which to me says
Mm.
that we are going to be droning diligently. We are going to make sure you can't hide from us because we are going to be using these drones to find where these defenders are sitting, and we're going to clear them out and make sure we are nice and safe. So I really hope we see that coming out, because if that's the case, then that is going to be a really good use of that ban. For now, however, Proximity themselves are on the defensive. Bring out the Echo, the Malusi, Y, Jaeger, and Smoke. Nice to see that Echo coming out. Obviously, his drones are no longer invisible, in case you've been under a rock for a little bit and haven't noticed that change. So Geico's be trying to use those to get some nice intel up in this place. Working with those Banshees. And also interested to see where those Banshees go. Been quite a bit of discourse recently about how useful they actually are. Oppressive, annoying, absolutely, but just how impactful are they in the rounds? I
Yet
can hear
to really
science
see them make
screaming at me in the background.
yet to make full a full impression with this new Echo now that he's back in play. I've seen very, very little info. I think I've seen one
Geico with
round
this run
where a
out. Nothing for it though.
oh,
Please continue. Geico went for a
I am
bold
about
sprint out
10
of the
seconds
door.
behind you apparently, but so go ahead.
Right, yeah, you reset your feed. Geico went for a bold run out there out of the kitchen doorway. Nothing for it, as all the attackers seem to have come from the warehouse spawn. Drones coming in as some move their way to the top. Sturksy, however, by himself is opening their construction, droning out the area to make sure nothing's there. Geico with a team kill onto Zixi. Unsure what the
You
situation
what?
there. Maybe a skin violation that needed TKing for that we didn't pick up, perhaps. Or maybe Ezekiel just
Hmm.
annoyed him. I can that that's
Yeah,
also
I
no,
don't know.
also default.
It's too late for a skin kill. I'm not sure what that's about, but it means he won't be able to put his magnets down, which obviously build up over time. So a big waste of not just a man but some utility there. And this is the roaming play we were talking about. Are they going to clearly drone themselves out and make sure they're safe? No! Element! He's not got the vigil. He has the 416 of Jaeger instead, and he takes out not one, but two soft breaches by himself. You can see why Endangered banned the vigil, but then didn't use the advantage they had with those drones to take out the man.
It's so strange. I mean, we saw as they kind of stacked up outside warehouse, we saw those drones coming in, but not quite diligent enough, not quite thorough enough to make sure they can find Element. And now he's dealt so much damage, he can fall back, I think, down to blue. We can see him there in that top right corner. And now with a man advantage, half the time elapsed. And these attackers, plenty of hard reach left. They will most certainly get this hatch open, but what will they be able to do with that?
It's a new abbreviation for man advantage. It's mad vantage. Because not only is it a man advantage, it's mad.
It
It's a
is.
crazy man advantage. It truly is a mad vantage. And some mim packs coming out from underneath here, taking out some Hibana X Kairos pellets on the hatch. It's going to be a bit trickier for her to get through. And there's the second impact. I don't know how many X Kairos she has remaining. 4, so it looks like she will be able to get that hatch open. It's just taken quite a bit of time. Again, Endangered, relatively slow, and they've clearly not cleared out enough roam presence to make themselves feel comfortable from behind. And with the lack of Nomad, Gridlock, they're just going to have to push in from one side and almost hope that they don't get pushed from the other side. It looks like they won't, though, with 30 seconds left.
No, and Snokes is going to begin things. He pushes his way down main stairs. His position definitely known as the shots ring out along that corridor. These defenders have had plenty of time to rearrange themselves. Geico here up on the side. A box you have to check is the sledge going to be... No, the sledge backs off, but the plan's going down. The drop from the hatch comes out. The Geico shuts down the sledge, and now the push comes in. Planter is dropped, and Andro's by himself, and very quickly gets swept up. Broker on the Malusi, who's MP5 to shut down proximity round in their favor after round number 1.
Still 20 seconds left for me, so I'm clearly way off the action. But it sounds like a dramatic sweep at the end of the round for Proximity. Again, I my notes from Endangered against Volcano from the last, I believe the last time they played, were during the third to second minute being on the clock on their attacks. Endangered for the first minute or so, quite bimbly. They took their time to get into positions and decide exactly where they might want to move and start droning. The second to first minute was a basic breach, but a lack of kills and a lack of like following in drones, that sort of play that can quickly clear an area as well. And then they have little time for an execute at the end. But they are surprisingly good at the execute once it gets to it. They just don't do enough work mid and early round to make it easier for themselves.
Yeah, they rely on that scrappy gun skill, which they are definitely in possession of. They really can pull that through at the end, but they make sure that they have to if they want to come back with the round. We move to CC and TV for the secondary site. We've got the same attacking lineup and pretty much the same on the defense, except Geico switches off of the Echo onto the Goyo.
It's CC and TV and cat and
Yeah, I mean, there are 4 bomb sites.
Uh-huh.
Come on, dude, learn the game.
Sorry. I'm just a noob.
You are.
And that is an NO and OB.
No ob. Quite a nice little bunker position here being set up in construction, fully reinforcing off logistics to make life a little bit harder for those attackers to get too many ingresses to take that spot. A good thing to see. We've got Geico in an aggressive early position here in garage rather than holding up on the rafters. But is there any wall now? There is. We do have a mute, but are we going to see Scipio go beneath with an Ash charge? It would be very...
So, but he'd have to clear out Element, which is something they've not managed to do so far. That cheeky little Jaeger player sneaking around in storage. He doesn't need that vigil. Again, I've got to praise the ban, but you've got to do something with your play to validify, make sure that ban was worth the point. And there we go. The crossfire is coming out. A lovely distraction from Warden, and Scipio picks up the kill. Now, that is the sort of teamwork that they need to take this man out. A big step up from last time where they were both taken out by him.
Yeah, just that thing, as you said, right, the crossfire coming out, making sure they were in position to assist each other. And here, Scipio gets out that breaching charge, is going to make sure that mute jammer is short for this world, and that breach can finally detonate. The wall's going to open up. Less than half the round gone, so pretty decent time efficiency. But Broker still hit on the far roam. They've got these drones, but they haven't done an awful lot to clear out these roamers. Hopefully, and if this attack does come from a full cache side eastward take, then Broker will be fairly redundant. If they go for a late rotation, as Sturksy seems to be doing, Broker being out there could be a problem.
Still a good amount of control of various areas for proximity, despite being open. Yeah, I do love various areas. It's just a great thing to say. Still got garage control, red, with very little pressure from those directions. It is mostly on the breaches from opposites. I mean, you've got the east and west players lining up to pinch in the middle, but these are not the best entries to make. They seem to be waiting around for some sort of rallying cry. And here comes Sturksy charging on in. He's going to take a bit of a shot. Does he know the position? He's been shut down from red. Zixi gets another Warden. Tries to strike back, but Samioto pulls things even further in the defender's advantage. He's shut down by Scipio outside the breach to bring things now in the advantage of the attackers. A 2 versus 1. Only Geico remaining inside of Garage. He surely knows the position of Scipio. Angelo may still be a mystery, and they're probably going to push in from the same angle here. Ash runs across. He's ready for the second player, but he cannot win the fight. Angelo seals the round for Endangered. A very strange execute, but it pretty much solidifies what I've been saying, which is that they often are slow and a little bit. They lack a bit of care sometimes with their intro, but if the start of the round goes their way, when it comes to the execute, they can see a round in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, they really didn't take much in the way of control of the actual map. They opened up the main breach, and as you said, right, they pressured from that subroof window to CCTV and from the breach, and they just kind of flooded in, but that left them vulnerable to that crossfire from cache to garage because they hadn't yet cleared either of those spaces, and they lost so many men because of it. Luckily, they were able to frag their way out of it and pull it back into their advantage. Geico left by himself in the end. But this time, it comes through for them. Like we said, they have the capability to make that work. It just can be slightly dangerous when they force themselves to rely on that. We go back to cache and CCTV, proximity, favoring themselves to try it again. Slight switch in operator lineups. We've got the Mute still and Broker. Geico switched over to the Wamai, which we have absolute full denial of those projectiles. Plenty being brought in the hands of the Zofia, Ash, flash grenades in the hands of the Thermite and Havana, and obviously the frags in the hands of the Sledge.
There are a lot of projectiles to get endangered as far as they want to go. Bringing the same lineup, but it's a pretty strong one. Why mix it up? Of course, they could. It doesn't seem like they need that final man. We've been debating this somewhat when we see stiff lineups, Barnell and myself, as to whether you want to bring that fifth man. You know, whether it's, I don't know, a Lion, for example, who can just really assist with getting those kills when it comes down to it, as opposed to burning out utility or helping to open things up. Someone to help with the execute. Doesn't seem at the moment that Endangered necessarily need that in particular. So I think this is a very valid lineup for their particular style of play.
Yeah, I mean, the styles of play that rely on open things and blow things up and then take gunfights. This is exactly what this lineup is good for. You can see now, close engagement here is one opening up the back of the stage. Warden being close and careful. He knows the angles that can be opened up from here, but he is now below and he has the access to get underneath and blow up underneath that barricade. So the breach can begin to go off with a whole 2 minutes left. This is really good time efficiency from Endangered. No real denial downstairs to stop that. It's weird. We have the Jaeger and the Wamai, and this is such a common methodology of getting open the main breach. I'm unsure why we don't see more people throwing magnets down within Lounge to slow that down a little bit more. Element not going to intervene, he's still down there, providing a little bit of ability for a thorn in the heel a little later on.
I'm interested to see, of course we can see a drone going right past Element right now. Did Warden spot him out? He stopped the drone there. I'm not sure if he spotted the Jaeger. I was about to say, his position may well be known. I've not seen too much evidence of them finding his position. I think that drone is still there, by the looks of it, and Warden's headed towards Element. So it looks like they have droned him out, and he's dead. Exactly the sort of thing they addressed from that first round. They've stepped up, and Sturksy steps further towards the advantage for Endangered in this round, taking out Samayoto. Pointed him out at the start of the game as a key man to watch, especially on the smoke, and he's been stopped quite easily so far.
Nitrocell comes out to no avail to try and push back this push from Construction, but down into a 5 versus 3 with 45 seconds, the pressure is going to start to be applied. Flashbangs come in, don't quite blind the Mute player broken behind the chassis, but with this many players, the push will come in any second. The breach here on the Construction wall is going to really open these angles up, but he doesn't need it. Warden puts their bullets into Broker and brings it to a 5 versus 2.
Still a decent amount for all the attackers to do, but a good advantage is even stronger. Now only Zeke remaining, and it's a flawless round for Endangered. They did everything they needed to do, stepping up massively from that slightly wonky first round. They really found their efficiency and did a fantastic job throughout that round. I think each round they're getting better and better earlier on. They seem to have woken up nice and sharp. And Proximity not really playing their game at the moment. They seem to be just doing the basic strategies, as you pointed out, they of course are good at doing, but they don't seem to have that spark at the start of this game. Let's see if they can find it back on the site where they have won their only round so far, Church and Arsenal.
It does seem that Endangered are getting very efficient at taking advantage of the mistakes made by Proximity. With only having Element there on the roam, he proved really devastating in round 1, but since then, they have managed to find him, get the crossfires, or get those angles required to shut down that roamer, and there's been nothing actually to stop what Endangered are bringing. They're going for this very, very standardized lineup of hard breach and soft breach. They're doing the same method of they go beneath and they use a projectile to get rid of the mute jammer on the wall. And we're seeing no adaptation from Proximity. No move in ADS to Lounge to stop that from happening. No odd magnet even there to slow that down. They set the site up with no real thought about what the attackers are actually doing. And Endangered are jumping on that right now.
Yeah, Proximity just kind of playing things by the book, not necessarily looking to counter their opposition. And so far, that's not proved fantastic for them. We'll see if it can work out this time. Of course, they were looking a lot stronger in the first round when they won this out. This particular defense. Scipio and Warden, of course, had a bit of a rough time in trying to deal with Element here. They've had a bit of practice now, and they certainly look a lot more warmed up. And he is certainly waiting for them over there, as the drones will find out inside the garage storage.
The drones have come in, and he's fallen back fairly quickly. With only a minute left, the attackers have been able to enter and begin to make their clear, and there's no roaming presence now from Proximity. Now with complete freedom to begin making these vertical angles, Sturksy does begin. The Nitro Cell goes off to try and deny, but only shaves off a hair's worth of damage off of the sledge, and he's going to have to keep getting these angles open, and the hard breach is going to probably end up going down relatively quickly.
Great control taken from Endangered. They look on top of things, everything going by the book. Of course, there's a lot of things to do from this position. Gotta get that hatch open for one, and Zeke's gonna try and make it hard. He is playing somewhat dangerously underneath. Looks like he might give that up for now. Would be surprised to see him come back. Of course, he's got 2 impacts in pocket, and Geico with 2 as well. Can certainly at least delay Hibana for quite some time, unless she gets over-aggressive and decides to use all the pellets she can in one go. Sturksy providing some extra cover to make those impacts very hard to throw. It looks like they're not going to go for them at all.
Yeah, there's so much cover there from above with the sledge there that Zeke's deciding to fall back and let the breach happen.
Tunnel man. That's something that's caught my eye at the moment. Will they clear the tunnel? We've seen quite a few teams in Reflex make the mistake of leaving the tunnel.
Oh, what a nade. Geico gets down by a beautiful nade thrown down from the hatch. Brokett's going to be able to res, but that's going to be the Echo on really low health. A good start. With this little time left, Zeke's gets dropped as... Zeke's drops Sturksy. That's a hard one to say.
Yeah,
through a beautiful
tough.
narrow angle through the hatch. And now at 30 seconds, this is beginning to lean really heavily towards Proximity.
Yeah, oh, dearie me, I got a bit scared there. Almost running straight into Scipio, but it's all right. He's not going to team kill. He's going to try and open the wall. Impact coming into use from Echo. There's only 12 seconds left, though, for this execute. And there's Samayoto. They've not cleared the man. They've not cleared the utility. Element starts clearing endangered players off the board, but striking back. One gets 1. Team kills inexplicably. 2 versus 3 for the attackers. And the Yokai not dealt with. Too slow. From Endangered, they struggled. I think the last 10 seconds there in terms of utility for Proximity not being cleared off the board. The Yokai and the smoke canisters as well. So much utility not dealt with. I think leaving tunnel, they opened it, which can put pressure on and push a player back. You need to make sure that it does, though, certainly when you want to execute. And then at the same time, I think again, Endangered were just too slow. They left themselves far too little time for the execute. And despite a great effort, I'm not sure what happened with Warden. They find themselves at a 2-2. Back even. Now that we go to Gym Bedroom for the first time, Samayoto, interestingly, opting off the smoke and going for that very strong mirror that we like to see here.
We are finding that a lot of teams that bring these kind of very stiff lineups of open things, blow things up, they can get control fairly well, and they can open up a site fairly well, but like you said, things like the Yokais and the site utility never gets dealt with. It's places like that where you want to maybe back off of the Ash and Zofia, because at the moment I'm not seeing so much soft destruction being necessary that both the Ash and Zofia is needed, so bring out the IQ. Bring out the fuse, even, because a fuse charge through a soft floor like that destroys so much utility.
It's quite a versatile lineup here from Proximity. We'll see how Endangered can deal with it. There's a lot of individual challenges there across the board, not just in terms of specific utility, but in terms of guns, in terms of C4s. It's a very flexible lineup, and it could certainly challenge an attack. And we've seen a lot of attackers challenged strongly on Gym Bedroom, as it's a very tough one to figure out exactly how you want to do it. And if you don't know, if you don't have a very specific plan, we've seen teams bimble around and ultimately fail more often than not.
Well, it's such a dangerous place to be in, especially with those long floor angles that we just saw getting opened up, and with these hard positions like Samioto on the mirror inside here. If they don't get cleared out, stepping inside of the site is death. Step inside a gym window because it looks a little bit clear. You're visible from so far across that floor, all the way into master bedroom. It's just such a dangerous place to be in. Attackers rarely know where the safest place to be is. Zeke's gonna fall back as the hard breach goes off on the jacuzzi wall. The shield also dealt with as Scipio gets on that window to make sure no tricking can occur. No bandit here, so that's not gonna be too much of a problem, but now these attackers have access to this wall. Seems like Zeke's there, opening that top angle. He's prepping to go for a impact trick in case they try and hard reach that mirror away. But elsewhere, Geico has shut down the Hibana that would do so, roaming so far off and netting some really good value for it. Complete top floor control in the hands of proximity and not even dented by endangered so far.
Well, there's the first attempt to do so. It's Zeke's taken out by a lovely grenade from Sturksy. Somewhat enjoying the sledge so far. He's got to keep enjoying himself if they want to see an advantage in their hands. 1 minute 10 on the clock. There's a lot of time for an execute. Here comes Element to try and deny him. Doesn't manage to hit the shot, and the thermite is planting. Geico taken out elsewhere by Warden. A very key kill at the right time for Endangered, now defending that diffuser. Oh, but the C4 goes too far over Sturksy's head, and he pushes close, takes out Samayoto. Trying to go for the diffuser, taken out. It's Broker, leaving Element the last man. His position is known. Almost another flawless round there from Endangered. Losing that first fight, but picking it up, getting 5 in a row from that 4-man position. Sturksy, I think, quite crucial in that round. Helping out, not just with getting things open around the place with his nades, using the nades for a kill, getting a few kills in a strong area on the stairs as well.
Yeah, I mean, that is like we said, right? The actual site itself is a very dangerous place to be. And so defenders often defend it from outside, from the corridor, from logistics, from construction. And yes, Xerxes there cracking really the spine of that defense, doing wonders there to allow them to take victory on that gym attack. We're going to go back to gym. Proximity think they can make some changes, hopefully, perhaps, coming out on top this time round. We do have a switch up in lineup, where we had Goyo previously. Geico is switching over to the Bandit, maybe going to go for a bit of a trick, perhaps, on the wall and slow down that breach, because when the attackers got hold of that corridor, they did so much work with it.
I'm trying to think about what Proximity can do differently there. I think that was a very well executed attack from Endangered. They knew what they wanted to do. They did quite a split push, but with a lot more focus than I've seen from other teams in Reflex so far this season on one particular side as opposed to the other, which is quite smart. I think teams get too split up here in general, and they lose the ability to refrag. Endangered, to be fair, they didn't need it because none of the players making that move even died, but they were certainly ready in case that happened. And that mirror window, in a very strong position to deny the Jacuzzi breach, to make sure that that's a tough position even when open to control, really didn't come into use that much as Zeezy was taken out early on by that frag grenade.
It was really good use of the nade to clear that position. No two ways about it. Just waiting to see here what comes out differently, because aside from the Bandit, it looks to be a pretty identical beginning to the round here on Gym one more time. We really didn't see Ninja bother with taking control of the rest of the top floor, which actually seemed to work in their favor. They really made that the player that mute over there really rather redundant. And without actually a castle barricade here, we've switched to the Bandit, but just shot off from the window, really absolutely no delay in getting that breach open. In fact, possibly less, because last time Sturksy used a frag grenade to get rid of the mute jammer. This time, he can use his nades elsewhere, and Samayoto is feeling that pressure as he's down in Gold Vault. Peeks out a little bit, aggressing a little bit towards that hatch. Is Sturksy still there? No, he's left. Mirror's been wasting that little bit of time as the attackers consider where they want to make their entries, and here we come, this push in. Oh, the shot from the Geico! putting down. We mentioned that mirror window didn't do much last time, and he is putting it right this time.
Wow, great individual play from Geico using that utility to the best of his ability. Warden brings things back, though. A very key man for Endangered. He has been getting the kills this season, and yet again, sitting on the 7-2, brings it back by taking out Element. So a lot closer, not a huge mad advantage for the defenders at this point. Geico going for a cheeky trick to take out those visible X-Kairos on the wall. Not something you usually see.
That's a really nice, actually, way of playing a bandit behind that kind of utility. We pointed out that it didn't really delay the opening the jacuzzi wall, but playing one here where he can play behind the mirror, and the second they try and deal with it, just drop a battery and deny. And at this point in the round, there's not much they're going to bring out to actually deal with that. Hibana has both the Ashe and Zofia don't have any more impacts to deal with.
Oh no. They don't have much to deal with anymore because they're both dead. But Warden stepping up, getting another 2. He'd have to go for the quad for this round and a 1 versus 3, but he can't manage it. Zeke, the first man to fall last time, is... Oh, no, sorry. The first man to fall for the defenders, at least, in the last round, trying to defend this site, is the one to finish it off. Great effort from Warden at the end, but I think most of that round was won by the bandit there of Geico. Perfect use of utility, not just his own, but being aware of the ADSs in that position, 2 burned up by the stun grenades. He knows that frag grenade is coming after what he saw last round against Zeke, and peeks out to deny the sledge mid grenade throw. And then also being ready for everything else that came his way that round, except for Warden swinging on him at the end.
Exactly. Now, we saw Jim there finally go in the hands of the defenders, and as we end that first half, Proximity and Endangered switching sides. 3-3. We pointed out at the beginning of this, these look like two teams that we very evenly matched, and they are definitely showing us exactly that. Some great individual play coming out from the likes of Warden, as you pointed out, and also some really good moments of team play. Those moments where Element would be roaming, and we'd see people like Scipio and Warden moving together to clear out that roamer. Working really, really well.
Well, they've got a kind of similar thing going on here. I'm not sure if they will be working together specifically. Often, you can see the kind of Jaeger, the classic Jaeger role being adopted by Melusis quite often. So it could potentially happen. I imagine a tighter sit will take place here within the top floor. There usually isn't too much play underneath necessarily, especially in Reflex. We see very little of the sort, despite the ability, certainly, given the fact that the floors are soft for both objectives. And with the C4s on the board, it certainly could happen this round. It is unlikely.
It's possible, and it can have a big impact, but because Clubhouse is a place that is so wide, the returns to the top floor are such a long way away that you can really endanger yourself to be left down there and excluded from the action, or cut off from sight really easily. If the attackers have control of that corridor next to the site, then you have to run all the way to red, back across construction, and a lot of players don't want to risk having to make that run.
Here goes the first breach attempt. I think it's not mute jammed at all, and it is wide open opposite Sturksy. He has no mirror window here to hold this position. He's going to try it anyway. Could be under some pressure. Of course, only the nades in the hand of the sledge, and that is Broker coming around. You can see him cooking some stun grenades coming out first to burn out anything necessary, and here comes the first nade to try and get Sturksy, but it's Samioto who does the job, swinging round on the thermite. So the ground already taken by Proximity. Great efficiency and a man advantage in their hands. A great start to this round, looking similar to Endangered's takes at the moment.
Similar teams in... Oh, the shotgun. Angelo goes to try and retake the ground, but Samioto is just making quick work of this whole area. He's cleared out this hard point in the center of these sites and cleared off both the mute and the smoke. Nitrocell and smoke canisters off the board. Angle being held here by Scipio, and he... Wallbang shuts down the thermite finally on a rampage. And the angle from Bathroom, though, catches the prone Melusi and brings us into what will surely be in short order. I was going to say a 2 versus 3, but a refrag comes out as Warden shuts down Broker as the nade finishes off the Melusi.
2 versus 2 is now the man count. Oh,
Oh,
that angle! Zeke, a lovely shot through the wall onto Warden. I wasn't sure if he knew the position of the Jaeger, whether that was a guess or a strong call. It's worked out for the attackers, who now move into the advantage again. Only Wamai remaining almost with 40 seconds left to make this happen. Zeke peeks out with the pistol. A lovely shot with the RG-15 to seal the round. He steps up. I think the early work, a lot of it done by Samayoto on the Thermite, who I probably mistakenly said, hey, let's see how he does on the smoke this game rather than the Thermite. Pulling out the Thermite fantastically in their first round and finished off with expertise by Zeke on the Zofia. Proximity looking to have a bit more character here potentially with their attacks. They certainly look like they've got a bit more zest to them at the start of that round, at least.
is it lemon, lime, or orange?
A kind of citrus blast, all in
Okay,
one.
okay, okay. Like a nice blend.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay, cool. I don't know if you're going to go orange because they're on the orange team.
No,
Nah.
no. Was that you sighing the delicious sip of the refreshing taste of the citrus zest?
It was going to be, but I think we've seen a bit of that spice come into their play. There's only so much I can give when I see a lineup that is Thermite, Hibana, Ashe, Zofia, Sledge. Interesting on the Endangered, though, we are bringing out the Maestro and the Mozzie, a little bit more drone denial and some information coming out for Angelo and Scipio. We'll have to see what that can net them. We saw Element going crazy on the Roma. Do you think we're going to see Endangered bring out a Roma? It looks like Scipio's going to be filling that role. He's got those pests to deny the drones that are going to be out there to try and hunt him down.
Yeah, potentially their alternative to the Vigil, if that is what they would necessarily usually do. Of course, it was their ban, and we'll see how it can impact their roam. They're clearly sticking with this
A
two-man
spicy double
up top
roam.
plan. Yeah, it's not too unusual. We've seen it a lot across from this season, and that, yes, especially that hard wall you can see opposite Samayoto, signifying exactly what kind of hold, proximity you're going to have to crack. Of course, the Mozzie already dropping down and barricading himself in. So potentially just delaying in terms of time, because he has those pests to make sure proximity might take a bit longer to figure out that there's nobody there on that
Especially,
side.
unless they're really, really diligent, they're going to be careful to not waste their drones on those pests. And also, if they find that this Mozzie's been, I don't know, pinged back down on site, they might run the risk of overlooking almost the Malusi, who is currently hiding up in CCTV. The Ashe is going to make begin this roam clear, teasing a little bit of presence over towards construction. Doesn't seem to be aware of the location of the Malusi. No, Broker, no! He's fallen off the roof, the city bean. Look at him down there, melting on the floor. Luckily, Geico's going to advise him to pick him up. He's not going to be a wasted life, but the next time he enters engagement, he's going to be doing so with a lot more caution.
Oh, it's a bad week for brokers, isn't it? In general.
It is, isn't it?
In the gaming community. 1 minute 20 on the clock, and the attackers only now surging in. A bit of a delay there with Broker falling off the roof. They've finally realized there's nobody up there. Of course, ignoring almost for now. I'm not sure if they're actually aware of his position. He could well sneak round and catch them off. As we said, there's not too much time to do so, of course, as still a Banshee in his hands. He's not put that down yet, which is odd.
You pointed out the fact that a lot of these roaming, aggressive Jaeger roles are being taken on by Malusi's, and it's because she can place the Banshees and no longer think about it. Once it's on the ground, her job is done. She can go and, if she dies, not be a bigger waste. And you see often, Jaegers don't put down all those ADSs. They just run off and try and get some kills. Luckily, he's been a bit reserved so far, remaining hidden, but if he can begin to position himself... Ooh, thought we were going to get a barricade bang there onto the gun-wrecked player. We still might. The Maestro is down there, almost there, striking. Zeke gets shut down. Warden is the refrag, though. Broker shutting down the opposite player. Pretty sure Focus is focused. There's only 20 seconds left.
Yeah, there's very little time for an execute. We know Endangered can do it, but can Proximity? The plant's going down, and Maestro doesn't take out the player. He's killed by the supporting one. The tunnel player of Element now putting pressure onto Blue. It's going to be tough to deny this defuse, and it goes down, but it's only Hibana of Geico remaining over by Moto, having a key fight against the Mozzie. She wins it, but there are 2 players right by this diffuser. She's seen one. She's going to have to run close to deny. She probably doesn't have time to get there, and there's a supporting player looking. She gets one, and jumping off the diffuser. Almost, he doesn't try and stick it, and now those stun grenades blinding the Melusi. She has very little time. She doesn't know that Geico's coming up behind. Seals the round for the attack. 0-1 versus 3 post-plant for the attacker. Not usually a situation you find yourself in, and fantastically done by Geico, stepping up at a key moment. We've seen this come out from Proximity so many times. Across rounds, individual players getting doubles, triples when they need it.
Absolute madness there, Geico. And also, that was incredible. The fact that the movement to dodge between the pistol headshot and the flashes to oppress that final 1 versus 1. Great play. We saw the Maestro dancing around Gunrack as the player from Tunnel began to try and push them out of position. The Maestro was ignoring Tunnel and looked towards the hatch. We saw the Thermite of Samioto drop, take fire from the Maestro, did not look towards Gunrack. Samioto did not even waste a heartbeat looking to find where that Maestro was. It's like, nope, my player's above me, I'm covered, I must stick it down. And he just tucked in that corner and slapped that down that diffuser without a second thought.
He is the plant man of Reflex Championship, I believe. Samioto certainly proved it last season. I'm not sure what the stats are necessarily in that favor, but he is the man with the diffuser for Proximity, and currently Proximity with a strong advantage for it, winning both attacks so far on not only Gym but the basement, leaving CCTV as the other option. No reattempted sight from Endangered. They're just moving on. They're taking it to the site that they enjoyed the most, I would say, on their attacks.
Indeed. Now, I'm interested, actually, we do see a Castle and a Wamai doing a little bit of work downstairs in Lounge. This is exactly what we're talking about, right? So frequently we're seeing these rigid lineups go for the real Ash below to destroy the denial on the wall. This makes a little bit less sense, given the fact that they've got no denial on the wall. Element is going to start droning in this area, though, to try and figure out how to deal with his presence, if nothing else.
It's a pretty typical setup from the castle of Angelo. It's a very strong one, though, at the same time. But not when you do that! He looks the wrong way as the wall opens. I think he heard the breaching round and assumed that he'd be pushed from another direction at the same time. That he might be pinched, potentially. I'm not sure what that was, but he looked away at exactly the wrong moment and was taken out. A great start to the round for Proximity, giving themselves another strong start, and given their attacking so far, all in their favor with 2 minutes left.
Looks to be so, and with no turn on the wall, it's surprising they haven't actually gone for a breach just yet. It looks like Element being careful to stop any flankers coming out, and he and Scipio are surely going to have an encounter here soon.
Quick ground being taken by Proximity across the entire map. They are quite free to open up whatever they want and take that control across the map. The defender's getting penned in ever more so. One is taken out, but they strike back. Zexi is refragged by Warden. Again, he is the fragging man. Currently the only positive player on his team, providing that key fragging resistance. There's still a lot to do from it. I'm going to say generally low fragging all around.
There are only 3 players in the lobby that are positive. It's Broker, Geico, and Warden. That's it. That's the entire lobby that are positive right now. We're seeing these kind of spearheads of fragging. And speaking of, Broker continues the trend, almost getting shut down and finding in Proximity in a 4 versus 2. 50 seconds left. This is quite a lot of time to work with. They definitely know of the positioning of this Melusi, and they have enough players where they can consider going for a flank. But more so than that, Broker goes for the plant. The Ash doesn't know the position exactly of Scipio, and Scipio must to shut down Element. Another shot from Warden brings them back even, but the plant has gone down, moving on to their post-plant positions.
Well, you don't want Geico around if you're endangered in a post-plant position. We'll see if he can prove it again. That drone making Scipio's position known inside of construction, and he capitalizes upon it, taking him out. But he's refragged by Warden. the three men remaining are those fragging players we're talking about. He's going to try and long arm it across from Broker. He must know he's in that position. Warden wins the fight, jumping off the defuse to take out the sledge. The 1 versus 2 pulled straight back. If Geico can do it, I can do it as well. A lovely bit of play from Warden to keep Endangered in the game, away from match point, certainly for Proximity. Endangered, it's not all done here.
Not quite. Really, really good show there from, I mean, this is I hate to say it, this is becoming a story of individuals. These
Mhm.
teams are they're achieving pretty basic things, and they're ending up in these very tense, very scrappy, bloodthirsty engagements at the end in the last 30 seconds. And it kind of comes down to, can the single player really pull them out of that quagmire of trades?
Mhm. Certainly makes for interesting viewing regardless, and this game is so tight. Very close right now. It's pretty much as we were saying at the start of the game. Both teams have been inconsistent throughout the season so far in the first couple of games, not necessarily getting the results they would have wanted, and I think that pretty much sums up how this game has gone so far. They're back and forth like mad, and even in positions where it looks like they've won, suddenly striking back in a very remarkable fashion. It's the sort of things that we've seen from these teams a lot, and it's well suited against each other, but it's always going to be tight, and it is yet again quite tight here as we move to Gym and Master Bedroom for Endangered, who of course didn't manage to take this last time. They've been enjoying CCTV a lot more than any other site on this map. Their record on the others is a lot lower all around. Of course, I think all of their wins, 3 wins coming on CCTV and only the 1 on the attack on Gym Bedroom.
That is correct. Our notes align. Unpredictability is really the name of the game so far,
I'm
and
making
that
notes.
I have to. My brain can't store that amount of information. My brain's got like a couple kilobytes to spare, and that's about it. Um, we're seeing quite a bit of versatility, however, from Endanger's defending lineup, switching over with the Alibi, and we've also got the Valkyrie coming out. Good to see that bit of fluidity, making sure they're bouncing around a little bit. Having that additional information from Scipio, I've been informed, CPO, when I'm angering some people by saying Scipio.
Aw.
I'd like to take this moment in this early round to issue a formal apology. Um, I do not speak for Reflex Championships. As I make these errors, uh, I can but apologize and assure you that I will amend this in the
Yeah.
future. Um, anyway, Zeke, Samayoto, and Broker line up on the wall. Sturksy elsewhere opposite that wall, ready to deny these drones, but this wall will be opened in fairly short order if a nade flies in, which it surely will. Anyway, Geico starts things off getting off Warden. These two clashing
Oh,
titans, making sure that it is the attackers coming out on top first. This entry
wow.
denied over by CCTV.
That is a big one, with Warden popping off the way he has done. Looking at the rest of the lineup, all -1 even. Of course, it's not all about kills. They can all pull out moments. We've seen Sturksy be fantastic on SAS operators on this site already so far in this game, and he can certainly pull it out again. But at the moment, looking great for Proximity. Not as strong time efficiency necessarily as they've had on previous attacks. But as they get another man to their advantage, it looks a lot better. Scipio making sure that is certainly not the case. Of course, we know his pronunciation now. I think he deserves it, to be fair, because he did play Clash earlier in the season.
Only for that, I shall
Yes.
make a genuine effort to say Scipio instead of Scipio. And he's going to be peeking out here on the Valkyrie, contesting important for breach. His position absolutely known, almost still in battling. The fact they haven't cleared this hard point between sites yet, a really good sign from Endanger, but there's only 2 of them left. We've seen them pull crazy things out before, but it descends into a 1 versus 4.
Oh.
This Geico clears up Scipio. It's a Bastion in bathroom, and it ain't lasted long. Geico looks at the pistol one more time and almost hits the deck, and Proximity find themselves on match point here on Clubhouse.
Geico with a bunch of kills that round, all very, very crucial. Of course, starting things off with a pick onto Warden is really the signifier of things going rather wrong for Endangered right off the bat, and the rest of the team couldn't pull it up. A bit too much reliance on their main man currently in this game has seen them with a 2-round disadvantage. Quite crucially, that being the 2 rounds that puts Proximity on match point. And from here, given their attacks so far, managing to get 3 with only 1 loss, it's now or never from Endangered. Of course, they can still do it because we've seen remarkable plays. They've just got to pull it out here on a site that they haven't won defense or attack so far this game.
No. Now, obviously, I think it's easy right now to compare Warden and Geico. They are absolutely gunning, and they are making really, really round-defining plays, especially toward the end of these very scrappy engagements, toward the end of these rounds. I want to hold up almost to Samioto. We're seeing those people often be the ones holding the diffuser, when Endangered on the attack almost was the one sticking that plant down, if I'm correct. Samioto going 4-3-10 of 0.4 KD on the match, but he is one of the players who has made very key mid-round impact plays, and he's getting his breaches open constantly, and he is sticking the plant down religiously. While I think on the side of Endangered, we're seeing some pretty good team play, especially with Scipio and Sturksy, with Warden leading the charge. We're seeing Proximity really have that backbone of Geico and Bruker being the tips of the spear, but they have Samayoto, who is not slacking at all.
Yeah, his KD in particular never really does him justice in these games. Doing some key work behind the scenes. I don't know what goes on in terms of necessarily drone play or intel calls, management. I don't even know necessarily who the captain of the team is. I could probably have a look at that actually, but you wouldn't imagine that it would be anyone other, because he seems to know his stuff, and he is pulling things out fantastically, bringing his team this strong advantage. Zeke is going to be moving around, making sure underneath, on top even of the site. No sneaky roamers around, going for a bit of a manual play, which of course is it has its positives, it has its negatives, and certainly a negative at the start for his team, as Samioto, the man we were heaping praise on, falling very early, falling every single round so far this game, with the diffuser as well.
With a 0% survival rating, we've got Zeke here clearing in from the top. I have received confirmation from the wonderful observer Dan that Samioto is the team captain of Proximity, and Endangered have Sturksy to command them.
Oh.
Almost is going to continue the bleed. Zeke falling off the board. Luckily, he is refragged as Geico steps in one more time. Samioto, as we pointed out, and with him being the captain, he's going to still be there on the comms, directing them in this 3 versus 4. We've seen them come back from far worse, but Church is a place that really requires you to split a bit of that attention. And these defenders, if they play it a little bit passively, could find themselves clawing their way back to match point in return.
In looking at these defensive positions, they are as city as possible. Squatting in all these positions. You can see the Mozzie on his cams. Not careful, I was about to say, he needs to move now as that wall opens. He gets the call, off he moves. Not sure what cams he has, but also with those evil eyes up, there is a lot of intel potentially in the hands of the defenders for when this move happens. A C4 still in the hands of the Mozzie, and the first gas canister, only the first of 3 being expended. Broker kills Geico! He strikes back onto Angelo and tries to go for a plant, but there's a player right next to him! Scipio gets the kill, and it is only Element remaining shooting corpses at the moment. He's got 12 seconds before he becomes one himself, potentially. Oh, and it does indeed happen that way. Scipio finishing the job for Endangered. Close in, well, quite close in the end, but I think most of that round was done around the minute mark. Endangered with that man advantage and a severe utility advantage. I think both teams so far have struggled in terms of attacking the basement because they're not burning up the defender's utility, which is tough to do on that site. But maybe just a bit more aggression from the attackers across maybe blue and tunnel may be the key to burning out maybe some of those smoke canisters at the very least.
Church is a very difficult place to attack, there's no doubt. Blue often becomes, I think, the cornerstone of that defense. And you can do so much from that position. You can impact almost the entirety of both sites from blue. And when you leave the defenders that kind of area, they can rotate between sites very freely as you try and make a push down main stairs, which is what that came into. The fact that they were pushed so low for time and utility, for all the praise we can heap on Geico and Broker and Soyota's planting, they're doing exactly what we kind of criticized Endangered for doing, for bringing the we open things, we blow things up kind of lineup. And it's making sure.
I've got to bring up something else as well, which is proximity. That was their third team kill this game.
Oh no.
Like Zexy's died, Geico's died, and I can't recall, I think it was Broker who died the other time as well to team kills. I don't know what's going on. That slight bit of miscommunication, or just having one of those days where you're playing with someone, you're expecting them to like move one way and they just step in front by accident.
It's because I mean we're seeing those moments happen a lot because they're finding themselves in these positions where they have to flood in, and they can't hold back. In that position, you need to use a man advantage to gain an advantage in a gunfight. But when shoving yourself through a tiny little hole opened up by a Hibana to try and shut.
Two of them on the defense.
Scipio and Element, a beautiful running shot from the Bandit. The entry from the Ash put down immediately. Continue.
I'm at least one of them was a weird team kill on the bottom floor against Zexy in like the first round.
Yes, it was.
I think the other one was a Melusi or something, so I'm not sure if that's necessarily true. It does paint a good picture though of Proximity's attacks, and the fact that sometimes both of these teams have struggled occasionally, especially on that basement. In terms of variety of areas and where they're pushing from, we've seen so many west-east moves over vertical priority, and very little attacker presence in garage a lot of the time. When it has been attempted, usually rather successful. Warden here is going to be a player, of course. We've been saying it before this point. Angelo taking out a lovely frag grenade against Broker. Of course, Broker, Samioto, and Geico potentially vulnerable to Warden here, who is up behind. The Maestro is down as well. Oh no, he's still down, sorry. It's the same man. I thought it was finished off for some reason. Still technically the man advantage for the defenders, but it's going to be a tough revive from that position.
It certainly will, and they haven't been able to get rid of the electrification. I think Warden's on the bottom floor. Finally, the Maestro gets finished up, and the entry comes out. Yeah. He's not careful for the holes from Red, however, and he gets shut down. Refrag comes out, Scipio is down. Tomato sticks that plant down. He's on a stop wall. He could be wallbanged here, and the smoke cancels go off, but it means there is no cover available as the rest of the attackers are pushed back. Broker downed, and Tomato on an island by himself in a severe man disadvantage as Broker hits the deck.
Effectively a 3 versus 2 for these defenders. Now a 2 versus 2. Almost technically. Zexy with a lovely angle held across to make sure there's no re-entry from Garage. Warden striking back on the Jaeger. He finally comes up. He's got to show up big here. Will he go for the defuse? Will he go for the sneaky defuse? As the revive might be happening, Zexy hears it, certainly.
Oh, these holes are going to be so important here from the side of the attackers, but no! Tunnel vision allows Warden to just step closer as the first one shows his position and the second exposes for the kill. Broker dropped. Warden, does he have time? He does only just have time to get that diffuser disabled, and that, I believe, will take us to overtime as Warden, yet again, in a 1vx situation to clutch out a round.
On the very site.
On the very site.
Yes. CCTV, it pops up on the board, and I say, this is a very site in general. Thermite, was my smoke hitting you? I don't think it was.
No, nowhere near.
From that position, it was quite on the wrong side at that point. Unfortunately, I think he went for it through the drone hole. Didn't quite work out for the smoke. 6-6 now on the score. I think this is the first game in Reflex I've casted that's gone to overtime.
It just might be. We don't see it happen very often. And to be honest, I couldn't think about two teams that I think are more deserving of hitting overtime. It is so back and forth, and I think it's coming down to, what you pointed out, right? Of what utility is left on site at the end of a scrappy gunfight. And this time we've got the Banshees, Evil Eyes, and Scipio on that Mozzie to try and provide those advantages when it comes to what it will almost inevitably come down to, a bloody gunfight in the last 30 seconds.
Yeah. And before we get to that point, I want to check with any of the production gang behind. The overtime rule changed this season, didn't it? From you get 2 points for winning overtime and 1 for losing. But we've changed that this season to all 3, so it is straight normal. There is no consolation prize. Just remind me if that is the case, indeed, because I'm pretty sure that's what we changed it to.
Yes, just confirmation there from the wonderful observer Dan, confirmed 3 points for the W. Doesn't matter if it's in regulation or if it's in OT.
Shame. That's a real shame, because I think I mean, just for this game in particular, because I think both teams deserve something from this game.
Perhaps, and I think
it's very harsh.
It is very harsh, but to be honest, while these guys are coming out with very entertaining, brutal, aggressive gunfights, and we're seeing action from these people, absolutely no question. Almost Sterling's off with a nitro cell onto Broker. That's going to be the sledge off the board, and he's an important one to have attacking Church when he opens up all those angles downstairs. I can't give more credit than that when we're not seeing much innovation in strategy. The same attacking lineup for both teams through all 12 rounds, now into round 13, every single time. I can't award more praise than good effort and good gun skill when we're not seeing that kind of play. Geico hidden down here on the Hibana's going to stand up and start moving as Zixi is with him as they clear this top floor. Element scanning around for this roaming presence on the top floor. Looks to be almost has retreated to the bottom floor though, and this is where attackers being careful, being safe, and making sure they can begin their actual ingress onto site with a little bit of security.
Zixi eyeing up blue from above. He will note the position of, I believe, Warden sitting behind the generator, who will be quite a key player to make sure he shuts down. No, it's Sturksy. Potentially more key, especially in terms of utility, certainly. He's had his moments this game, and now is the time to pull out a few more, certainly, from him. Zixi taking out that barbed wire. The move will be known by Sturksy, who has relocated. Bit of a sneaky spot here, sitting tucked in with the SMG-11. There's only 45 seconds left. This round is flying on by with very little action from the attackers, with the man disadvantage as well. Look at this crossfire that Zixi is going to walk into if he decides to move. Currently, Sturksy, he's dancing between these angles. He doesn't know quite where to go. Zixi eyeing it up from above. Hatch is now opened, of course, by the Hibana on the opposite side. The gun spotted by Zixi. He knows, but even if he drops, almost should be behind. I'm sure Zixi will certainly be a drop. And the rest of the site, of course, is contested. He goes for it, and he gets the better of Sturksy. He is shots from behind, and the rest of the kills flood from the defense. His only element remaining in the tunnel. He has very little time and very little HP. 0 to be precise. Angelo finishing the round 4 endangered, getting 3 rounds in a row from a 4-6 against them position in terms of rounds, suddenly putting themselves on match point.
It's exactly what they needed, and they're pulling it out in very strong fashion. I can't help but look at that, though, and think Proximity needed to bring a little bit more than that. It was unfortunate that they lost their sledge early in the run. They lost Broker, one of their leading fraggers. That's a shame, for sure. But, you know, where they're tensely looking at whether or not the Zofia will drop into blue, there were 17 seconds on the clock. Mm-hmm. You cannot be having that kind of discussion with yourself. Do I take blue now? With 17 seconds left? You need to be in blue with a minute left, picking apart the site and breaking apart the utility and making an actual attempt at controlling the ground. We're seeing every single round almost that a plant goes down be in a dangerous site without control established, and we're seeing so many post-plant battles. It's intense to see, it's entertaining as hell to see if they can clutch that stuff back, but it's getting repetitive, and I think it's coming down to who has the gun skill and the delay to force these attackers to just have no time to work with.
I think a lot of the time it's who has defense on the basement. to a large degree. Of course, proximity pulling out an attacking win here by the skin of their teeth. Very, very close on that particular round. Uh, but in general, it is following a very similar pattern across the rounds, and it doesn't bode well for an attacking team when there are, yes, 15 odd seconds left, and the casters observers are all staring at someone in stock because there's nothing else happening anywhere else. The rest of the team making that move happen, the remaining 3 players for proximity in that position, they're still just standing around trying to make some sort of move happen. They couldn't really do anything, so Endangered will be looking to mix things up. They've struggled a bit more on their attack. They've certainly favored defenses, where Proximity probably slightly stronger on their attack. So it's going to be a very interesting last round, certainly. If it goes to that, we still have one remaining before then, potentially. Endangered could take it in their hands. And 4 rounds in a row from a 2-round losing position with match point against them would be a fantastic comeback for them.
It would be a great comeback. It's far from guaranteed, though. Those 4 rounds, those 3 rounds in a row that we've seen them take to bring them to this advantage in terms of points have all been defensive. It was their Church CCTV and then a Church again on the defensive. Now they switch to the attack. Now they need to prove that they can do better than Proximity at their own game, and they're attacking Church against a very similar set of defenses. We've got Geico back on the Echo, and this is actually almost identical to the first round of this entire matchup. This went in the way of Proximity in fairly decisive fashion. And here we are in what could be the last round, and Endangered need to buck that trend.
Banshees being spotted out nice and early. That'll be a little bit annoying. I believe that was Warden using an Impact Zofia shot. What are they called?
KS something lifelines.
Yeah, those.
He's gonna need a lifeline now, but Broker shuts him down and Nitro Cell to start things off. That's exactly what Proximity need to bring themselves back. Warden going 17-7, absolutely tearing up the kill feed. Angelo answers back. However, Geico, the other leading frag on the scoreboard, is shut down in return, making sure it's a 4 versus 4. A minute left. Almost is now getting close on that Church wall. He could probably go for a breach. There's not an awful lot there to stop him. Making sure no one rushes around the corner. A drone here coming through from Moto, and we've also got the player, the Ash, above looking through the hatch to give it a little bit of security. This is looking fairly good.
Oh, Samayoto almost taken out. Just his leg sticking out with Sturksy. And the L85 is the weapon you want for those sort of damage shots. Just not enough landed before this push can come in. But importantly, I think that's one of the first times we've seen a smoke canister used without, I don't know, 10 seconds left. And the plant's going down, stuck behind Church. I'm not sure the defenders know. Any second now, it is stuck. And now it is a retake plan from those defenders. They lose the first man, Sturksy, getting the better of Broker. Samayoto's used all his utility. It's only the guns remaining for Proximity. A lovely swing from the Jaeger, but he's taken out from above. The Moto hatch being useful for Scipio. And it's only Zixi going for actually the defuse. He's covered by Samayoto. He's playing quite a passive angle here to cover the man, and he doesn't cover at all. Endangered finish with a win. 8-6 from a very disadvantaged position. It looked like it was all in the hands of Proximity with their very strong attacking. The game is indeed correct. A hard-fought victory.
And that was an absolute bloodbath, as we pointed out at the beginning, what would most likely be a fairly well contested. I don't think I've seen such a harshly contested game so far this season. I mean, that was so back and forth. Warden and Geico really just pulling out the stops, going nuts. How many times did we see post-plant clutches led by one of those players?
A good few, to say the
You know,
least.
a very good few, and those few were pretty good to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Any closing remarks, Ebag, before we close the lid on this refrigerator full of body parts that they just left behind?
Alongside the citrus zest from earlier, which is very refreshing. It's refreshing for one, not only the citrus zest, but Endangered in terms of their play. They're a team that are quite up and down in general as a kind of stamp of their play. We know they've got the quality. They just sometimes they just don't come out with the quality that we know that they have. They just don't show up some days. And today was a bit on and
So
off. And then finally, they stepped up at the end and got that consistency that we'd not seen. Proximity, on the other hand, a
kind of the
really
opposite
weak
story.
showing. A
Yeah,
weak showing from them in general. They're usually so consistent this season. They're really struggling. I would say in terms of performance, they've had their moments, but even their performances have been shaky despite I don't the results haven't been going their way and the games currently. I think their confidence has been shaken somewhat.
definitely something of a shaken confidence. And I think to be honest, those last attacks, they let them start to slip away a little bit. It was, I
Mm.
think, more endangered beginning to get the engine going than it was proximity backing off. But
Mhm.
endangered, like a sputtering engine for the start of that, and eventually started to get some revs and started to get some
Mhm.
consistency, some power through those axles and get moving. And I what's interesting about that game for me, I think these are two very similar teams. I mean, illustrated by the fact that we saw 14 rounds, and every single round, the attackers brought Zofia, Ash, Sledge, Thermite, Hibana.
Mhm.
Every single round. There were like 30 attackers, and we saw the same 14 rounds in a row.
Mhm.
I think this game was interesting and well thought because these teams play similarly. They bring these same ops, they attack in almost an identical way. Sometimes one outguns the other, but essentially the attacking that we saw was very samey in terms of the actual mentality, the objectives that they laid
Mhm.
before themselves. I think against another team that likes to be a little bit more fluid, a little bit more adaptive, take
Mhm.
advantage of repetitive styles of play, I think they're going to really struggle.
Yeah, I think they've both proved that with recent results. Um, have been a bit back and forth. Of course, the league this season is Oregon and Clubhouse, and by now, maybe I'd probably expect a slight bit more. What is it? I don't know.
A
Oiled
Nash?
gears. A
Oh.
kind of no, not clash. Of course, more clash in general. They don't seem to be quite as slick as you'd expect, given how often this comes out from a lot of the teams, and they've struggled on these maps, especially quite a bit
Indeed.
so far this season. So I'm interested to see if maybe they pull something out in future on on a different map potentially.
Well, we've made plenty of conjecture here. Maybe it's all
Mm,
complete nonsense. If you've seen us cast before, you know that we say something and teams make it their life mission to immediately prove us wrong. So,
mm.
to be honest, at this point, I wouldn't back anything that we're saying. I would vote for the opposite, and I would make sure that you tune in next time hit at Reflex Champions. It's been an absolute pleasure casting with you guys tonight. Great game, both in danger and proximity, and better luck next time. And congratulations for winners and losers, respectively. I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your night and weekend, and we will see you guys back here again soon for some more Rainbow Six Siege.
I'm far from home, no place to go, but I don't feel cold. I've been so blind, just lost my mind.